Syracuse Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for September 19th, 2024 is now in session. The first order of business is to approve the minutes from the August 8th meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Second, please.
Second.
Are there any modifications or discussion?
I wasn't here.
Oh, you weren't here. There was a little bit of a fuzziness on the, what do you call it, that Mr. Rudd, he approved and then he disapproved, but Pan said that the formatting of the document wasn't correct, so he's going to fix that. Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions or
I abstained because of absence.
and the minutes are officially adopted. The board will now conduct the public hearing on today's agenda. First, the applicant or the applicants.
I think you need to vote on that one because we don't have a voting majority of the board without your vote because Nora's not here.
I don't understand. I voted yes.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. 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 Okay, the board will now conduct the business on today's agenda. The applicant or the applicant's representative will state the reasons for the required variance and present any material or documents to be considered for the proposal. Then persons wishing to speak in favor will be given a chance to speak, and then those opposed also will be given a chance to address the board. Finally, the applicant or representative will be given the option to make any closing arguments or comments to the board. Following today's public hearing, the board may make a decision regarding the applicant, and the board may also decide to hold the decision until the next public hearing. If the hearing is closed, no more additional information will be allowed into the record except for information that the board may request. That information will be available for public review at the zoning office, 1 Park Place, 300 South State Street. Staff will now introduce the first case.
Thank you. Yes, one new business item today. It's a use variance request V-24-18 to allow 24 ground floor dwelling units in an existing building situated in the Central Business District, MX5. Location is 101-239 North Salina Street. Owner Dave Nutting, applicant Vincent Ryan. We'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Vincent Ryan with Keppinger Freeman Associates, the landscape architect, representing VIP Structures, the applicant.
Please state your address, please.
Address 6320 Fly Road, East Syracuse. With me today is Bob Gardner, the architect for the project, as well as Chuck Wallace, president of development for VIP. So thanks for meeting today. We appreciate it. I'd like to take you to the presentation quickly. I know you do have the packets in front of you, so referring to the letter that we provided the board. Real quick, just a quick history lesson on the building. I'm sure you're all familiar with it as it sits prominently downtown. So the building located at 101 North Salina Street, we refer to now as the Post. It was first constructed in 1967, excuse me, and that was the first and second blocks, which you'll see off to your side here, which is the face along Genesee Street, and then going back about 2/3 up North Salina Street, which is those the blue that you see there. The building was concluded in 1972, and that concludes Block 1 and Block 2, as we call them. In 2000, which we call Block 3, which is that last third of the building, was constructed by GSI Architects. And then in 2003, so what was interesting, just to go back a bit, was the original press was located where you see those blue blocks along North Salina Street at the south end of the project, or planned south. So that's where the old press room was, where they printed the newspapers. So in 2000, they moved the press to Block 3. They got a new press. That was the big press that was there until 2012. And then in 2003, where the original press was, they raised the floor up to where it is today, which, if you refer to the survey, if you could, going along, or even this picture is actually good if you could actually go up. Going from North Salina Street, where you see the raised, what we call the block at the end of the building, that big white raised architectural feature, that's about 3 feet above street grade. And then if you bring it all the way up North Salina Street, it's about 7 feet internally within the building above grade. It looks like it's all one level, but it's not on the interior. So that's just the quick history. Again, going back, we're here today seeking relief from Article 4, Section 4.6, or dwelling ground units within the MX5 district. Going through the criteria, right now we can't foresee a reasonable return. If you want more information on that, I'm more than welcome to provide that, but we did provide a write-up on that, and Chuck is here to answer any of those questions. In terms of unique hardships, on page 3, I'll just go through items A through G quite quickly here. If you guys have questions, I can certainly follow up on them. Item A, there are structural constraints. So if you go back to that photo, I apologize, thank you. Running along that face of the building there is a structural beam, which is going to be quite difficult for us to cut through to provide entranceways. So that's our first item of why we believe ground floor units are more appropriate to provide the commercial space, which is intended in the MX5 district, and providing those separate entrances for that commercial district would be quite difficult because we would have to cut into that beam, move it, and reposition it somehow. Second, as I already said, B,
Where is the beam, if you were to point? Mm-hmm. So you couldn't just put garage doors that lifted up in there because there's a beam across the middle. Like, I look at it and I kind of see almost like garage doors, right? Even though, but so you couldn't do that because there's a beam that goes straight through.
You've got a beam running across the middle of it. Yeah, those aren't. It's not like that's just bricked in with a window.
Yeah.
There's things going on in there. So item B, like I said, 3 to 7 feet across that roadway. C, because the site housed the press back in the day, so you'd imagine if you, which page? That's the first page, right? We have in your packets is the original press that was in this building. It was actually, yeah, this is the new one. But you can imagine where the original press was. It was actually below grade level because it was so big, and the original floor was actually sunk below street level, and then they had filled it in 2003. So now we've already had a change in floor height that has occurred since the construction of the building. What results is, because this machine was so large, is you have a very unique tenant that had occupied the space for a considerable amount of time, and then having to switch to modern tenants, commercial enterprises that would utilize this space. They don't need those ceiling heights. So we would have basically wasted space within the structure that would be unmarketable, where, surprisingly, if we did residential, which is what we're asking for, we can put interstitial floors, which we have in your drawing as well. We can get about, on this side, is it 2 or 3 stories? In block 2. 2 stories of residential, so the ground floor unit and then the second floor. Do you have with the page number on that? We'll see if we can locate that. So just continuing through, as a result of what the code asks for, is it implies entrances for commercial, and because of the grade change along North Salina Street, we find it increasingly difficult to provide separate entrances along there that would meet at different grades along that street, and having to provide multiple entrances and multiple stairs, ramps would be infeasible. Right now, when you look at Block 3, if you can go back to the floor plan, there is if you scroll down actually, there is already a dedicated entrance to Block 3, which we would utilize as the residential entrance, and that brings you to the first floor, the elevator, and everything else. So right where his mouse is, which is Block 3, right to the south there, that is an existing entrance that's secured that would give you and everyone in that space residential access to the building, whereas VIP and Chase would maintain their entrance along the corner of Genesee and North Salina Street. So we feel that having that entrance that's already dedicated is a preferred situation for residential, as opposed to if we were to provide commercial tenants in there, they would all be going into that area, and then having to access the businesses from within the building, as opposed to what you typically see downtown, which everyone has a storefront. Lastly, last two items, market conditions, we've kind of hit upon. This site, when VIP moved in several years ago at the beginning of COVID, obviously special circumstances, they were able to renovate that Block 1 area and provide additional commercial space on the second floor for Chase Design. Both of them have been, doing great, but you can see, because of the uniqueness of the building, the fact that it's been a single-use tenant for so long, this additional space has been tough to market for commercial tenants. The intent was, when they bought the building, was for commercial tenants, but has seemed at this juncture to be quite difficult to find someone who's interested in this space, whereas it can be filled quite quickly with residential. And then lastly, just to recap, there are several design limitations as previously stated. In terms of the use variance criteria, we do not see this altering the character of the neighborhood. We think it fits quite well with the character of the neighborhood. The residents will be at least 3 to 7 feet above finished grade. We'd love to work with the planning department at a later time to kind of go over what things like the glazing and the sill heights kind of look like along that area. So we have some sections within this set right now, if you can scroll down to the sections, that kind of show what we're intending, but by far that's just the first step. That's not what we're looking at in terms of the proposal right now. And lastly, the hardship is not self-created. It was constructed this way, and we're just trying to fill the space. We were left with the situation. So that's just a quick overview. I'm open to questions. If he does make it to that section, I can explain a couple more things, unless it's not scrolling. Uh, 300. Yeah, so right was one more up.
far right is the high bay space, if you don't mind, I'll point.
Go up. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so right now, right, this is the first floor of the building, and the original press, before this addition was built in the back, this area right here is where the printing press originally was. And this is where the floor was originally 5 feet lower and had a way better connection to Salinas. So after the addition was built and they started printing the paper with the new press, they took the old press out, and then they ended up raising the floor up that 5 feet, so now the entire ground floor is all of the parking garage, which is all the way over here on Windsor Street.
And that's proposed, so you're seeing that's the interstitial floor that would be installed, not the cavity that's there now.
Now, will you be, on the north elevation, that glass is slanted, are you going to straighten that, or are you going to leave it at that angle?
That facade's staying the same. So all the floors will be added.
We are, right,
Which facade are we talking about?
we know we're at risk, but we've continued to move this project forward to consider the residential use. We are concerned about the amount of glass that element has, so and because of the apartment layouts, we have walls that are falling where there are only large pieces of glass. So we're proposing to take some of the glass out and replace it with, solid wall, insulated walls. But that element will stay in its current form and shape, right? But the floors are going to get built out to, so the gray, I'll come back over here. This is a side view. Very interesting space that was built for the press. So, addition to cantilevering, so this is up at the second floor level. The floor cantilevers out. The floor doesn't, it's just this element, because the only floor in there is all the way down here at the first floor level. But it cantilevers out 5 feet, and then it slopes on the north side, but it also cantilevers to the east and to the west, but the wall is vertical. So what we're proposing is to take large pieces of the glass out here and put solid wall there, solid wall there. And again, this is very here, but we understand if apartments are allowed on the ground floor that we have to accommodate the sight line. We know that the other MX districts that do allow residential on the ground floor have special provisions for when you do that about the sill height and the distance back, and we're happy to conform to any of those requirements.
The view that had the very skinny window in it now with the beam just above it, what does that look like when it's residential? Is
So
that
the
this view?
left side of that elevation is
It'll
what
look
that's
more
going to
like
look
that.
like.
So it'll have bigger windows beginning
Yeah.
at the beam, basically.
Different options here. It's going to be expensive to take large portions of that wall out and replace it with glass. So some options would leave kind of the heads of those small windows, but we bring windows down so you get a reasonable size window in the apartment. But that doesn't work every day. So again, we're studying that. But it's going to be some combination. It's going to require not. That when we come over here, we're going to be taking out a lot of the brick infills to create the fenestration. And we would be doing whether it was a commercial only development or whether it was a
And
residential.
Bob, since you're up there, can you just show everybody where that header is that runs north-south?
In this plan, that double pink line right across there is where that concrete beam goes across.
And that's 6'9". So having to enter there is the difficulty.
Is right here, you can kind of see it.
Is that structural steel encased with concrete?
It's a yeah.
Steel beam that's
Encased.
encased in concrete, part of the original.
How many units will be in the building total for residential?
Well, sorry, missed
There's
that.
24 ground, but how many are total? In the-
71.
71.
Yeah.
Is anybody best to provide a narrative? Because I just happened to have taken a tour of the building 2 years ago with the city VIP, and at that point there was quite a bit of optimism around, like, I don't know if the term is right, but light industrial for the space. How did that pan out or not economically in terms of the interest to get to the point where now you're thinking apartments for the... Maybe use the microphone if you want to come up.
And state your name and address, please.
Chuck Wallace with VIP Structures, 101 North Salina Street. Regarding, industrial light manufacturing, that's kind of, we were optimistic ourselves, seeing that that's what the space was used for. Can we bring some of that back down? And we've really marketed it that way for years. We've had some tours, but very few, and really, little interest. And having this, at this point, after being vacant for so many years, and not having that interest, we're like, we really need to be proactive, and what can we put in there that's gonna get leased and that's gonna support the project overall? So, looking at the physical nature of the building is one thing, but actually getting the tenants to be interested has been a real challenge for us.
Thank you.
I might have missed this in the narrative, but how long has it been sitting vacant?
So the post standard moved out at the end of 22. So it's been, a year and a half.
Year and a half.
And we've tried to leave. We knew they were leaving about a year before they did. So we were heavily marketing that a year prior to them actually physically being out. It took them.
The printing operation had left much earlier, though. So they hadn't been printing in the building, correct?
The printing operation stayed the longest.
Oh, okay.
Right. They took, half of that was just disassembling the press.
And there's nobody to bid on it commercially?
No, I mean, you mean as a tenant to come in? Yeah, we have not had anybody, again, a couple of walkthroughs with people that are wanting to take, maybe a chunk of space, but really have had no interested parties at all that we've gotten even past the LOI, letter of intent stage.
So in taking the chunk of the space, they would have left a substantial amount
Correct.
vacant.
Right.
Okay. I guess, is anybody here to speak in favor of the proposal? Anybody to speak against? No? Hearing none, I guess we'll...
Staff just has a couple of comments to make. It was mentioned, this being offered and kind of shopped around for commercial tenants. So one thing that had been pointed out in kind of some conversations prior to today was that the city of Syracuse actually toured this space to move move out of City Hall Commons. So we didn't even select it as a usable space that we thought would be good. So because we ended up at One Park Place. So
Right.
that's one thing. And then just to the applicant, if you can just kind of talk about the kind of different varieties of apartments and the sizes of them. Asking relief to put ground floor units, but just kind of talk about the different types of units and the size and variety of them. It is noted in the packet that they would have to meet affordability requirement percentages, so a certain number of these would be affordable. But if you can just talk about the different sizes, especially the ground floor units, and kind of the variety and the different types of units that might possibly be included, I think that would be helpful.
I think probably most notable.
Can we have your name and address, please?
My name is Bob Garner, and I am an architect with VIP Architectural Associates and I work at the property here.
101 South in North Salina.
Correct. Okay, thank you. I think, Jake's question is great, and for the most part, the majority of the 71 units are one-bedroom apartments. We have a few that are larger that will be two-bedroom, there will be no three-bedroom units. But I think what's most notable is that by adding these floor levels, in addition to asking for relief for the ground floor apartments, we're able to add these other floors that take this project, I think, from a smaller residential scope to a fairly large one, right? But I think most advantageous is what the ground floor units offer us is that those units can all be adaptable units. So all those interstitial floors that we're adding on the upper levels to get more apartments in this project do not match up to levels that have elevator access to them. And as a residential development, we don't need to make those floors accessible. So, and it's interesting that the building code and the change of occupancy to residential wouldn't require us to even have adaptable dwelling units on the ground floor of this project, but because we have a ramp, right, we have an accessible entry, we are proposing that all the ground floor units that we're putting in this project would be adaptable dwelling units, which the code would require in a new building. If we were building this project from scratch and building it with this weird, quirky configuration that we've got, the only requirement would be to have adaptable dwelling units on the ground floor, and we wouldn't have to do it on the upper floor. So what we're arguing, one of our arguments is that we can provide 24 adaptable units. And adaptable units means they have to be built in a way that if you have a tenant who's in a wheelchair, then you have to modify the apartment so that there are grab bars, but all the doors are the right size, there's blocking in the walls. This is a typical code requirement. In addition to those, we do have elevator access to the second floor through this residential only entry. You basically come in that side entry, which 2/3 of the way back between block 2 and 3, that'll be residents only. There's an elevator right there. You can get up to the second floor. Now the second floor feeds all these that floor feeds 2 floors that aren't, well, it actually feeds 3 different floors that there is not elevator access to, but there happen to be 7 units on the second floor that are at the level that the elevator accesses. So in addition, those 7 units are proposed to be adaptable dwelling units. So of the 71, we think the code doesn't require us to have any because it's an existing building, change of occupancy. We're proposing to do the 24 plus the 7 out of 71 are adaptable dwelling units. So we think that's a benefit. I don't know, Jake, if there's anything else that I could clarify there?
No, I think that's good. And just to note that, and we'll go through this at later approvals, but the variety of the affordable units kind of has to match what you offer. So just kind of looking through, there's quite a difference in some of the apartment sizes. It looks like some of them max out at close to 4,000 square feet with the smallest around 500 square feet. So that's quite a difference. It looks.
I don't know. You're looking at totals. There's a column before that.
Oh.
There's area each. So when there's multiple units that are the same square footage, they're accumulating the area in the column at the end.
Oh, I got you.
Can
It's
you
really
see?
small.
So there's a column there that says area each. So they're in the realm of maybe
Oh, there we go.
700,
800.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So just
up to 1,000.
If they're all going to be 2-bedroom, you just have
One
to
bedroom.
offer a different variety of all the affordable units. They all can't be like just the small ones, is what I'm trying to
Oh, yeah,
get
we would
at. So-
definitely prorate, right? So
Right.
the percentage that are required, we would accommodate that prorated across the different types that we have, for sure.
Correct. And largest around 1,100 square feet. I'm like, man, who's living in these
Two
huge
houses
units?
in here.
Okay. Any more comments? No, no. Okay.
Will there be a mixture of both one bedroom and two bedroom that will be adaptable?
Yes, yes, yes. Again, we have to accommodate where there's elevators, right? The ground floor would be the big bonus. But, and it's interesting, most of these apartments are being designed on this notion that they're 15 feet wide, but fairly deep. The two-bedroom units end up at the edges where we have like an extra 5 feet, or there's a little like L-shaped bump out, and those offer enough additional square footage for there to be two-bedroom units, right? And so we're working out the layouts, but I'm going to say that the two-bedroom units are probably, it's going to be less than 20, it's probably going to be between 10 and 20% of the total units that will be two-bedroom units. But there'll be one and twos that are adaptable. And again, that's kind of driven by the layout of the building and the way it comes against the new circulation and stuff that we're doing. I guess we'll present what we're proposing, and if for anybody if for any reason somebody feels we should have one or two more two-bedroom units that are adaptable, we would accommodate, right?
So there's 31 adaptable apartments.
Yeah, 24 plus the 7.
So there's 31. Good. Next question. And this really doesn't have anything to do with what you presented, but I just, out of curiosity, what's the affordable rate on an apartment like this going into that unit?
I think it's around
100 for the one bedroom?
And the percentage of the ones that the city would require us to provide is based on the number of units. We know the threshold is 75, so there's a lower percentage if you're under 75 and a higher percentage if you're over, but honestly, we can't squeak in any more apartments than we already have.
Now, just a little
71.
puzzlement here. Okay, you're talking adaptable. Now, I'm assuming it means ADA compliant.
Well, again.
But then if they're adaptable and you get a client that needs to be adapted, you'll adapt it. But if you don't get any clients, they will be normal apartments?
For the most part, except like in adaptable units require you to put a 36-inch door in, and you have to meet all the handicap clearances around the doors, the bathrooms. Adaptable bathrooms are a little less restrictive than an accessible bathroom, okay? But the floor plans tend to be a little bit bigger because they have to accommodate circulation for somebody in a wheelchair and that the doors function properly. It's not earth-shattering, but again, as an apartment building, an R2 occupancy, there is no requirement for accessible dwelling units, only type B adaptable dwelling units. So again, the code is really clear on how you accommodate that, and our designers all are taking that into account.
Okay. Are we ready to make a motion?
Okay, has everyone reviewed the short EAF Part 1 that's in your packet?
Yes.
Is everyone familiar with the short EAF Part 2, which is also in your packet and prepared by staff?
Yes, look at that. Yes.
Does anyone believe this project will have any moderate to large impact?
No. No.
Okay, because you do not believe there will be any moderate to large impacts, I recommend you vote to issue a negative, declare the BZA lead agency, and vote to issue a negative declaration under seeker and complete the EAF Part 3 accordingly. So you're going to make a motion in which whoever moves is going to say, I move to declare the BZA lead agency for seeker and to issue presumably a negative declaration.
Someone going to make a motion for the seeker?
A motion, I might need you to say it one more time, to make the negative declaration.
Okay, I move to declare the Board of Zoning Appeals lead agency and to issue a negative declaration under seeker.
I move to make the Board of Zoning Appeals the lead agency and issue a negative declaration under seeker.
Good job, Liam.
Thank you. I hope somebody seconds it.
Second.
May we vote on that, please? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody abstain or against? No. Okay. Okay, that's carried. Now, can we have a motion to approve or disapprove the variance?
I make the motion that we approve the variance.
Okay. We have someone to second, please?
Second.
Liam.
Who? You?
Liam.
Okay. Okay, do I go through the criteria, please?
Okay. Describe how the property is unable to achieve a reasonable return for any use allowed in that zoning district. And based on the reasonable rate of return, and I just pulled out a real strong argument here due to the space physical constraints in the area's weak commercial market. There is no reason to believe that a viable commercial use can be on this particular space. Number two, unique circumstances. Describe that unique circumstances apply to the property for which the variance is requested. And I think the unique hardships they went through, structural constraints, elevated floor levels, inflexible ceiling heights, ADA accessibility issues, security concerns, and market conditions. Number three, describe the variance. If granted, the essential character of the neighborhood will not be altered. It would not be altered in any shape or form. From my perspective, the neighborhood would be enhanced by the improvements made to the building. Is this a self-created hardship? And this is not a self-created hardship. That's how the building was constructed back in the early 70s. As a result, I think the improvements that will be made will be excellent. So it's not a self-created hardship.
Very good, very good. And you made do you have any kind of follow-up comment?
No, I agree, and I think it'll be great to have that many new residents in Clinton Square.
Okay, can we call a vote, please? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any against or abstain? No. Unanimous, it passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Does we have any other business? Okay, have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, a second?
I'll second.
Second, thank you. Adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.